And in the past decade of practice, what I realized was that many of us are drawn to martial arts, not only for the physical discipline, but also because of the intellectual, cultural, historical richness to them. And yet, we don't really have opportunities to talk about that aspects and then compare notes. So precisely this gateway is an attempt for us to have a conversation about it, compare notes, and talk about non-physical aspects of martial arts. And today's guest speaker is once again our own Phil Sensei, Phil Ortiz Sensei. As many of you know, he is the pioneer of the martial arts practices in New York City with the New York Budo Association, which is the oldest sword school in the city. And not only that, Phil Sensei has done many different forms of martial arts. Last week, we talked about the yabusame, the archery on the horseback. And today we'll look into the shuriken jutsu with Phil Sensei. But again, it's meant to be a conversation among us. Please put in question in the chat and just step back and relax and we'll have a good time. Cheers. And with that, today first, we will talk a little bit about, we will revisit what Shuriken is, who did it, why and how in the beginning, and then we bring the conversation to Q&A with the Phil Sensei. I will start with the questions, but again, please put in questions in the chat and then we'll pick those up so that we all get to hear very interesting experiences of Phil Sensei. Grab your drink, tea, coffee, wine, whiskey, and we'll start first with a little image of what Shuriken actually is. So, oops, wait, how do I do this? And I need to be able to move this screen. Ah, there you go. We'll start with a little video, have a drink. It's only a few minutes long.
Indo, that is the way of shinobi. This is secret of ninjutsu. To realize law, knowing yourself, others, train yourself hard, yet impediments that make you always come no matter what happens, endure each other, which is the spirit of shinobi that is needed right now. With me, make one.
When you think of ninja, this comes first on your mind, right? Hit enemies with one throw. Topic of this video is the truth of this shuriken. もう一回やってみてもらってもいいですか？お願いします。今回2種類の手裏剣見せてもらってもいいですか？
こういう星型のものですね。
はい。
この棒状のものを使っているところを
The shuriken can be roughly divided into two types. Furthermore, there are various shaped shuriken, and it is said that there are about 50 kinds of them. 結構薄いんですね。
これは薄いタイプ。分厚いタイプはあります。
はい。
これは
少ない
ではないです。陸前。
陸前ですか。
こういう言いましてですね。沖にこう打ってこう上がったりね。石の間にこう入れてしまう。これ足がかかってる。そのための道具、テントに使うでしょ。
使いますね。下。
そうそう、一緒に。
はい。
だから同じような使い方をしてる。それを手裏剣に使ってみる。
やっぱり棒のものの方が。
そうですね。回転するでしょ。これ回転すると刺さらないので、この重心のところを置いといて、重心のところから行くと、まあ、これ一番まっすぐいったら一番いいです。強い。
はい。
でも、実際は敵は動いてるんですね。
そうですね。
だからそんな前ぐらいに行くわけじゃない。だからそこ当たってもいいわけです。ここ当たってもいいわけです。で、そのままこうやって掘ると、まあ、基本的にはこう飛んでいくはずです。
基本的には。
基本的には。回っちゃうともう、ほら、ここへちょっと刺さりました。ということは、敵にもし当たったらこれ、これ、痛い。
なるほど。We learned how to throw the stick shuriken. Have the center of weight, throw it away without spinning around. It is like throwing a cannonball. Mr. Kawakami says shuriken doesn't need to stab enemies. It is okay to just hit them. Do you know why? 目的っていうのは何だったんでしょう。
好きを作る。そして逃げるか、
はい、
倒す。これで刺さって死ぬとかめったなことはないでしょ。
これはしないんですか。
よっぽどね、刺さるわけですよ。はい、でも人間動いてるんですよ。
はい、そうですよね。
そうでしょ。そのところにね、まっすぐドンと刺さるっていうことはなかなかそんなことは。どうぞ、いろいろ。これ、タガネです。タガネ。これはボスンクリ。だからまあ、何でもいいんですよ。石これでもいい。ただこんな石これでもいいわけです。
Shuriken is not just a star-shaped weapon. Throw things around you and make a distraction. That is the truth of Shuriken, and more.
忍者特有の武器ということではない。
ではない。
武術の一つとして手裏剣に使う。なるほど。忍びのものも侍であるから武術やってる。その中に手裏剣はだけのことですね。この元で邪魔になるじゃん。はい。落としたら、足落としたら足怪我ですね。
怪我しちゃいますよね。
そう。それでこれ持っててこれ何やってこうなるでしょ。はい。これどこ塗ってどのこのっていう説もあるけども、十分傷ついたら重視のかな。そうですよ。だからまあそういうこともないとは言えない。だから忍者の武器っていうのは当たってない。使ったかもしれないけども、さほど重要なものです。
The next.
All right. Which, oops, was it's been interesting, right? So because there are a lot of myth about shuriken, and there are a lot of myth about ninja. So first, let's try to deconstruct that a little bit. I mean, I found it interesting what he said about shuriken was not, sort of the weapons of choice for ninja, but it was actually part of the samurai training, together with the archery and spear and sword and so forth. And some of the well-known samurais are actually the master of shuriken. I read somewhere that the last shogun was actually shuriken master. So it was part of the samurai training. And shuriken as a weapon, there is no definitive account of its origin, but I think Phil Sensei can speak to it. But it seems that from the historical records that it really evolved from the earlier form of sword. Before the Japanese swords adopted that curved form, the ancient form of sword that came from China was a straight. And shuriken, the stick shuriken, is actually the smaller version of the sword. There are some theories that shuriken also are derived from the Chinese slingshot techniques. And another interesting point was, again, shuriken was never really meant to kill or to be lethal, but more about creating distraction or disable your opponent so that you can launch counterattack or run away with escape. And there are many forms of shuriken. And another thing that he said, there is no standardization on the shuriken form, but they're all made small and black. A, to make it easy to carry, but B, you know, that the black or dark colors made it easier to conceal. And I put it on a slide here how they made the Korin charcoal before they moved, the shurikens were made for polishing, tempering, and so forth, to make it less visible from opponents and again easier to conceal. Why? And here let's and we'll come back to this point about the shuriken form, the stick shuriken, and the wheels or star-shaped kurumaken. Each, again, starts very different. We will see different forms in the visuals a little later, but the bow shuriken was actually mainstream. When we think of shuriken, we think of the star-shaped, but it was actually the stick one that was mainstream. A, because it was easier to manufacture that way, and B, the impact was actually bigger. I will ask Phil Sensei on this point a little later. Whereas in the star shape, although you know the larger number of the point, you know, made it easier to hurt somebody, but it was actually more difficult to carry and conceal. You know, if you are stopped at the checkpoints, and if you have the star-shaped shuriken, you know, you're more likely to invite questions. Whereas the stick shuriken could be, you know, you could actually sort of argue that it's, you know, it's a stick, you know, for farming, or it, you know, the hairpin for women. We'll come back to that point a little later. But why it was important to conceal the weapons, and there we also want to deconstruct. This is a kind of examples of the stick shuriken, and then how to conceal in hand, or to prepare for strike. We'll come back to it, as I said, a little later of these examples. But before we, you know, open the floor for question with the process, I want to also talk a little bit about why it was necessary to conceal the weapons. And there we also want to deconstruct a little bit about who ninja was and why they use shuriken. And here, I mean, there's a lot of text, but let's just go one by one. So ninja as a term didn't appear until 1950s. So ninja as a concept is very actually modern. A ninja was a synonym of spies, and they were called in different names. Shinobi is probably one of the most popular ones in the Japanese context. But shinobi, or the spy, were first employed 1400 years ago. This is as early as, you know, last time we talked about the Yabusame, how the archer and the horseback also appeared as early as, like, you know, 500 AD. And the shuriken, or the shinobi has, you know, the long history as much. The historical written records refer to shinobi around 1400s, when the samurai emerged. Shinobi, the spies, initially emerged as the rebels against at the early stage of the feudal system, when you know, like the Christianity probably in the European context, when the clergy and monarchy and aristocracy, right, they sort of carved out the swath of land for their own taxation purposes. and the locals rebelled against it. And that was the beginning of ninja/shinobi. Eventually, they merged with Shugendo. I don't know, maybe some of you on this call may have done Jo with Phil Sensei, but Shugendo was the practice by the monks, right? Traveling through the mountains and practicing and perfecting some of the fighting or the skills. So there's a bit of the connection to the Shugendo and Jodo. I think we'll probably have a session on Jo at some point through this gateway. And this is when shinobi sort of gains the fame as a spies. During the Sengoku period, the fighting period, they were hired as mercenaries, and their main job was espionage. So unlike what we think of ninjas as fighting machines, they were professional spies. And as such, their job was not to fight, but their job was to survive. Their job was to gather and bring back information. And they did so by assimilating with the locals. They disguised as farmers, traveling merchants, and monks, and so forth. One of the very interesting things about the ninja master that appeared in the Shuriken film earlier, he said basically, our job is to survive. Our job was not to fight. Was not our expertise was not combat. And once the fighting period, the Sengoku period ended, they became like the castle guards. They continued to serve as spies. And there were two main clans or families in that context. And I want to introduce them really briefly because there you get to see a little bit of the secret knowledge of the spies. First one is the Igaru. Iga and the next one that we'll talk about, Iga and Koka, those are two main or most famous shinobi ninja families or clans in Japan, and they're both located in the mountain areas around Kyoto. So it was easier for the lords of the capital city, Kyoto, to hire them as mercenaries or spies. Iga or Hattori family. You may have heard Hattori Hanzo, one of the probably most well-known ninjas in the history. But so Iga, these guys, they were like two mercenaries in that they really worked for anyone for financial gain, for means. They didn't choose masters for political reasons. They were really like, they went for money. And their family secret, so to speak, was the use of firepower. So if you have seen the movies, how the ninjas threw the little the gunpowders or little the balls of the gunpowders, that was really sort of the expertise for Iga. And also Iga is known with a little bit of sorcery. So if you think think of a ninja in terms of a little bit of magical powers, that's more associated with the Iga clan. And you might have seen the Kuji and the 9-hand seals. I'm gonna put up the video in a second. Have you seen why the ninja moves, how they use this hand motions? That's the Kuji. And even today I see some of the people called healers or the exorcists use this as a way to A, they concentrate on the energy, and B, sort of ward off the evils. This is kind of interesting, so I'm just gonna put it up. Oops. So they do the Shuriken national tournament, by the way. Oh, wait, that was not.
シャ、カイ、ジ、レッツ、ザイ、ゼ、リッ。
Right. So that was a little sort of the relationship to the supernatural powers and that the ninja, so especially from the Iga side, try to perfect and install. It kind of survives today. The other main school is Kogaryu, and the guy you saw at the beginning is called the 21st Soke of the Koga or Koga clans. They originate from the very first shinobi in the 6th century that I mentioned before. Unlike Iga, these guys actually work for specific sponsors. They had a bit of the political relationship with the lords. And their specialty was more like these guys traveling as farmers and merchants. And they also, had expertise in urban medicine. And unlike Iga, they had the form of communal decision making. They were like truly sort of like the example of the rebel governance, so to speak. I am mentioning these differences because I think it's kind of interesting that there are variations in ninja and there are variations in what they represented. And this one is from the Koga little footage. And this is the last one I promise before we go to Phil Sensei. Oops.
The ninja, famed for their physical prowess and unmatched fighting skills, were most active during Japan's 16th century warring states period. Their main role was as spies to gather information on enemy movements. Movies and comic books have made ninja famous worldwide. The old castle town of Iga had the largest ninja community. Here you can still see the special clothing, weapons, and tools that they used. Jinichi Kawakami has been called the last ninja, the inheritor of the old novel. As well as lecturing and giving workshops around the world, he's also involved in an academic project researching the science behind ninja methods. Kawakami will teach unique ninja body techniques to anyone who wants to learn. People usually think of ninja as warriors or martial artists, but in fact, a ninja's primary role was to gather information. They were spies who avoided fighting. The goal of the ninja was to secretly acquire information and rapidly return to their base, avoiding all contact with the enemy. To achieve this, they used special techniques. For example, they had a unique way for running long distances. Leaning forward as if about to fall engages the power of gravity. Arms and upper body are kept still. This conserves and maximizes energy. The ninja also use special breathing methods. This one is designed for long-distance running. In, out, out, in, out, in, out. Total concentration or it won't work. Concentrating on repeating this irregular rhythm stops the mind wandering and keeps it fully focused on the act of running. Ninja skills and insights are now being scientifically verified by the University of Hira. The project led by Professor Yuji Yamada involves research in several fields. One topic is ninja breathing techniques. They used a number of methods chosen to suit the situation. On a life and death mission, a special breathing technique helped ensure maximum concentration.
Kawakami was specially appointed a professor to participate in this research. Here he's measuring how ninja breathing changes his brain waves. Normally our brain waves are very different when we're resting than when we're concentrating. But even though Kawakami is intensely focused, his brain waves show a relaxed resting pattern. Facing imminent death, ninja are said to go into a relaxed but concentrated state to help them use their mind to the maximum. Our measurements prove this is happening. Ninja breathing techniques are effective for maintaining presence of mind in stressful situations and are used in corporate training courses. The art of the ninja is really a set of techniques for living. That's why many of our methods remain useful today. Honed in the face of danger, an art for living in the moment.
All right, so that was a little intro of to just put in the context of the next half an hour or so of conversation with Phil Sensei about his expertise in Shuriken. So Phil Sensei, my first question as usual is, how did you get into it? What was your introduction to Shuriken?
My dojo brother, Thomas Dreidland, or better known as Ajo, he's now lives in Koyasan. He's a monk. And when we first started studying together with Otani Sensei, Tom had, as a kid, he always was interested in Shuriken. And actually I have, when he was in junior high school, he was in shop class and he made these Shurikens. This one is interesting because they're double-sided, two tips. And he made all of these Shurikens. And he also made hira Shurikens, the wheel Shurikens. He made this one. He was probably, he was in junior high school. He was about 15 years old. And he just had this interesting ideas of how to make Shuriken, and he made these. This is a smaller version, and he made these, and I showed these to Asuka Sensei, and he said, "Oh, those are very good." And I said, "Oh," and he said, "Where did you get these?" And I said, "Oh, a 15-year-old boy made these." He's a 15-year-old boy. I said, "Yeah, well, he's an older man now. He's a monk now in Koyasan." So he was like, "Nani?" It didn't register. But anyway, Tom Dreidland made these, and we got to practice in the dojo and in the park and so on and so forth. And and I was always interested in it, and I always researched it, and I had shurikens of my own, and I taught myself how to throw them and work with them. It was like how would you say? It was a fun thing for me to do, and I did. There was a few other guys in the dojo. We would do it off campus, so to speak. We do it. We go to Flushing Meadow Park, and places like that, and a secluded area where the Parks Department or the police or somebody wouldn't see us and call, tell us to stop doing it or whatever. So that was my one of my first introductions to that, practices and stuff like that. Otani Sensei is my first EI teacher, and his wife was Dr. Hatsumi's schoolmate. Dr. Hatsumi is like the current head of the ninjutsu school, the Bujinkan. And I don't have any knowledge of really of ninja, other than I met him, and we went to one of his classes in Japan, and they were very nice to us, and it was me and a few other people. And then, I was always, like everybody else, was entertained by ninja movies and, novels. And especially I like the old ninja movies, like from the 60s, because, I'm of a certain age. So I got to see like the really cool ones, not the kind of American ninja guys, you know, which is okay, you know. I never, and also the other person that I'm, you know, that I was able to work with, Stephen and his group, but that was very recently, like 5 years ago. And me and Rick Beal, we went out to teach them Judo. And, you know, very, you know, lovely dojo. The people were very nice to us, you know, stuff like that. But I didn't do any Shuriken with them. I was teaching Judo. But interestingly enough, Shirakami Sensei was who also did Judo, who was the head of Shirakami EQ, you know, style, and you know, a Shuriken system. So a lot of it is intertwined. As I said, I don't have knowledge, and I never studied ninjutsu, taijutsu. I've known a lot of people that have done it. Like 2.5, 3 years ago, I went out to the Bujinkan, New Jersey, where Sensei came. Osaka Sensei was invited to come, and he's visited them a few times. And I was privileged to go and practice with them. And one other time in Chicago. And prior to that, I visited him in Japan a couple of times, and was able to practice with them and stuff like that. You know, took an exam and stuff like that, which I failed miserably. But you know, at this point in my life, or even back then, I wasn't really interested in so much in accumulating many ranks. I mean, I have ranks in certain stuff that I do. But anyway, that's how I got interested in it. And then lately I've been more and more interested in it. I've been practicing more. You know, so I have a number of Shuriken here that I use. And also I've been interested, and I've been throwing these guys.
Wow. Wow.
This is a family in Shuriken. This is a throwing knives, and these are as opposed to Shuriken, which are menacing kind of a weapon, as you explained. So Shuriken is like, you know, and then you draw the sword and boom, and you cut them down. That being said, there's a famous story of Musashi Miyamoto, who was in combat with this sickle and chain master, and was not doing so good against him. You know, he was swinging this chain with this heavy ball on the end, and he was really whacking him and stuff, and he was getting hurt. So Musashi, when he was in range, he threw his sword into his chest, and he was able to defeat him. So, you know, it goes back to that, you know, way back. So Musashi lived, what, the 14th century? Way back then. I don't have my facts on the year clearly, but, you know, there's a lot of things to be said about that. And yeah, as you mentioned, is the Shuriken is about throwing the sword. So this is more akin, these knives, these throwing knives are more akin to the original way of protecting oneself or defeating one's enemy, you know. So why do we, you know, why I study now, you know, and, you know, for me, it's what they call katsujinken, you know, moral understanding and spiritual understanding. And, you know, if it originally was like Satsu Jinken, you know, gaining victory, you know. So do I need to gain victory over, you know, the sickle wielding chain guy? Not really, right? So my endeavor is about polishing myself, polishing my heart. You know, it's like, you know, we talk about in swordsmanship is life-giving sword, you know, and it says, and people go like, what are they talking about? What are they talking about? What does the teacher mean by that? You know,
Let's come back to the point a little later, because I think that I want to end this conversation with the sort of
Okay.
the philosophical part of it. But before we get to that, no, I think it's
I can easily
interesting.
go down
No,
rabbit hole.
this is a highlight, right? So please keep it at the end. But I think it's interesting. I think what you said really relates to what we heard, right, from the videos, that the ninjutsu is related to
Yeah.
other
Right.
martial arts. No, you knew that.
You asked me, well, how did I get involved? And I think I answered.
Right. No, you knew. So, your introduction to Shuriken was in relation to other martial arts, like Otani Sensei's wife, or some other people. So, and there the introduction to through the Tom, the monk. That's therefore the relationship, the dojo, the monk training. So the ninjutsu or shuriken was part of the larger martial arts network. So that's one takeaway from what you said. B, there was a self-made element. Somebody, your friend Tom made shurikens, right? Because it's not that actually difficult to make those small weapons if you have enough skill. So I'm sure the ninja or shinobi had that self-made element, right, in their life. So those really speak to the evolution of the ninjutsu and shuriken. But I want to sort of hear a little bit about the technical part of it, how you throw, what the difference in your experience with the stick shuriken and the star shuriken. Can you maybe show what you have and then tell us a little bit about
okay, let me see.
skills, techniques.
So here as I said, these are both shuriken that are Meifu Shingagi Ryu. These I got from, and they're pretty light. They're solid. They have a little weight to them, but again, they are a menacing weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then here is the one that I made. It's a much heavier one, because I couldn't get the lighter stock, and I was in California, and my friend had a knife making machine, with a big belt grinder, and we made a bunch of these guys, and these are pretty lethal, and they really stick really well, and they can knock you down pretty good. And then of course, then there's the yari style, so it looks like a spear,
blade. Yeah.
and like that,
Oh.
and it also has this end, so you can, if you wish not to, really penetrate them or something, that you can just strike them. Or if you're hunting for a small animal, like survival mode, for like samurai, they so the ninja or people that were spies, shinobi, they had villages up in up in the mountains and stuff like that. But this one would be, so if you wanted to catch a small animal, say it was a squirrel, you didn't want to pierce it and damage it. There was not a lot of meat on it, so you'd hit him with the back of this. Similar to the arrows that we use in Kudo and in China, when they use these big bulbs to strike, not the ones that make the sound, but the ones that you shoot a bird and you knock it out. So this was on a similar idea. It's interesting, and I'm sure there was a version of that in the West, of like a small animal and you strike him without penetrating his body or something. Anyway.
And that one is also made here in the US?
These here? No, these are probably the reproduction. They're probably made in China. Everything comes from China. And these are a little bit heavier. And these one need to have a tassel on the end because they're long and so they fly straighter.
And
so there's many different ways of throwing this. Some of them, most is the brush method, right? And then there's every school has a little different than, like in Shira style, they use more of a needle style. Can you see it?
Oh, right, yes, it's much thinner, right?
Yeah, so, but this one actually, these are a little bit too short. The Shira style was much longer. But so there's a word for I can't. It's me. The translation is house needle. How would you say
Uh-huh.
that?
House needle. Hari.
Yeah.
Hari.
Hari. So these were called hari.
Okay.
So because they look like a big needle. Right?
I'm gonna put
But a little
on the
bit longer. And
screen.
these are.
Do you see it?
And this again would be brush. You brush it, but and then many styles of throwing. So I only work with both shuriken. I'm not, the hira or wheel style shuriken. Kind of like, they're a little bit difficult to be, like, these are really sharp, even though, these are probably, Tom is probably in his 60s now, Tom Dreitland. And he made these when he was junior high school. So this is still sharp, and I've thrown these, but they're small, so they're difficult to handle. And
Right, so this
these
guy.
wheel shuriken, pretty much stick. You don't need a lot of skill for these. Once you figure it out where the toss is and stuff like that, then here that's one. So those are much bigger. These are small.
Right. I want to show some of the examples of the kuruma shuriken, because this is very interesting how they
the other
came up.
is hira.
Right, the board. Yeah. Okay. So
I mean, that's the way I know it. Yeah, but
right.
And then these ones you're showing here, these are from like Iku Ryu. These here, they kind of have it has a tail, not like that one, not like these tails. It's made out of metal.
Okay. So yeah, so this has a different styles.
There's many different styles, and if with no spin styles of throwing, mostly what I learned, no spin, and you can throw no spin very far if you have the good weight on it. If you can throw about anything. The people we would a good thing to start with is big house nails, and those are really cool to throw. You don't have to spend a lot of money. So these big long nails, and they're probably like really lethal, like the one in this picture here, right? Those are that you can buy, these big nails that they use for construction, and those you can buy them in any hardware store. And you can throw those pretty far. And this is a picture of Somiya Sensei, who resurrected or started Meifu Shingagi-ryu. He was a master in Katori Shinto Ryu swordsmanship.
I see. Okay.
And Katori is a full menu, so to speak, of a Budo practice. So it has not only swordsmanship, and it has naginata, and it has shuriken, and it has bow staff, and it has many short weapons, long weapons, yari.
Yeah,
like
there was a footage of
ninjutsu, body arts, without any weapons.
So there's a footage of the tournament.
Well, this is Embu, and it's probably in.
Yeah, this is a footage of a tournament or the Embu.
Yeah, it's probably the Budokan, maybe. So those are the, I would believe, they're probably.
I think it was called Negishiryu. But this.
Yeah, it's Negishiryu.
Right, and then this guy after this, he actually combined shuriken and the sword.
Yeah, and that's part of their curriculum. Yeah, so and that's called that particular practice is called Tojutsu Kamikomi.
Tojutsu
Kamikomi no kata. So if you put the camera back on me, I'll show you. Yeah, well, he's doing it now. He's just Kamai is up above the Jodan, and then the next one is Geidan, and then Chudan, and then Geidan. Yeah, so this goes to show you it's a menacing kind of art. You know, develop into more of a menacing art as, you know, you throw it into somebody's face or into, you know, hit them in wherever you can, and then distract them, make them lose their focus, and then go in and use your katana, right? So one of the kamais they were showing is they start here and then they change to the left, the raise. So they had a pouch where they kept them. They usually keep them tucked in here on the in, and then throw it. And they come in and cut. Next one is chudan, same thing, and cut. Geidan all the way down, switch hands, grab the shuriken, and throw it into the face, come in and cut, you know, so. And that's really, that I would say that's probably so really throw back to the original or the second step of the chudan level. Originally would be the beginnings would be the sword, actually throwing a short sword, you know. So usually samurai maybe had 3 swords. Usually
3, okay.
one sword, or even the tansen, you know, throwing a span. Quite often the fan was a bar that looked like a fan folded closed, or even one that opened may had ribs on it, not like the big like the Chinese version, but a similar idea. And they, you know, if you lost your sword or whatever, or it get broken, you can still do that and draw your short sword and go, you know. So the thing was victory, you know, in wartime or in a battle.
Very interesting. So like Katori, you know, the sort of the whole comprehensive styles still have then Shuriken as part of the sword training.
Yes, you're right. I've never, you know, I've only read about it. I've never really seen it, but I know that that is the history of Chikatoshi Sumiya Sensei, who started, you know, the Mifu Shinkagi of Shuriken Jutsu, because he felt that it was going to fall into obscurity, because, you know, even to today, there's a lot of people practicing now, but true masters, maybe there's 5 in Japan. There's a lot of people that, you know, kind of throw things around, but they're not, you know, they don't have the lineage of the particular, you know, Ryuha. And so he felt that he wanted to keep it alive, and, you know, Osaka Sensei found his way to that dojo, and then, you know, it was named, you know, the lineage holder, and he's done an exceptional great job. You know, he's brought it out to the world, and, you know, there's you know, the one time it was only in Japan, like in his dojo, and now it's gone to, you know, Finland and, you know, New Jersey. That's me, and
yes, I'm gonna show that in a second. Actually, if you're ready, this is really impressive.
Old man, Stanley Chen and the boys. This is when we were still Budokai, not Budo Associates. More than 10 years ago, maybe more, 15 years ago.
But how you did it from the back and so forth, it's very impressive. But
yeah, you know,
everyone watch it.
Like anything, it's practice. You know,
as we watch this again, everyone, if anyone has questions, please put it in chat. I you know, do have a question. So looking at, you know, how you
this, I'm doing the formal bowing, and I'm doing the pretty close. I'm shooting pretty close, but my grouping is pretty good. You're way back then,
yeah,
a little bit high, but
absolutely. I have a question. So, in Ryushin, we talk a lot about in and yo, right? The expansion and the contract. And
So,
I'm assuming that you actually do exactly that with this, but can you talk a little bit about that?
yeah, so in yo or yin yang is so essential to all the practices. Breathing is also the life energy that enable you to do the yin and yang or the in yo. In Japanese, Japanese pronunciation is in yo, and you need that life energy to have that. So you utilize as we've been practicing in our system, the opening, and the breath, releasing the breath with the throw is very important. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of elements. You have to have a good center, koshi down, koshi day,
How about the breathing technique? The ninja
breathing
master.
is pretty simple. So it's like breath in as you raise, and depending on the style, how you're throwing. I've been practicing because I've been throwing these monster things here. It's like drawing a bow and then pulling. So you have so the breath is in and then breath out as you release, So it's like anything, it's like breath in and breath out, And same thing, I translate that into my Jo practice, and I utilize, this fullness. It was interesting, Sensei, Hagi Sensei of us, the Soke of our system, showed this not new, he showed moving the front foot in and bringing the hara forward, and then bang, and then throwing it out, and I implemented that with these suckers, and man, this thing went in about that deep. These
Wow.
they're not that sharp, but they're pretty lethal looking.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, the Shuriken, the Shuriken is breath in and breath out.
So
It's like all Japanese Budo practices, and as far as I know, you can reverse the process. But I don't, in throwing, I've tried it, it doesn't work so well, but in other systems and other things you can, you can breath out and then breath in, kind of thing.
When you really think
But
of
breathing
Shuriken,
is the life force that we need to always have. The breath is the gasoline, the energy that feeds the engine. If you don't breathe properly, or you don't breathe enough, if you're breathing here, your lungs start from here to here and from here to back. They're big. And we, most in the West, we breathe kind of just up here a little bit. So breathing is very important. I mean, I studied, Iyengar yoga, and it was very helpful for me, for breathing and learning the proper breathing exercise. And we have to pay homage to India, which, they started throwing shuriken way before they did in Japan. India, China, Korea, and then Japan. But that's his ancient history, man. This is way back,
So there's a question from Adam, and this actually, he has a same question I had in mind too. Does the throwing technique differ very much between shuriken and the larger knives, like the one Phil says is showed earlier?
What's the question?
Yeah, that's the throwing technique. Yeah, exactly. So the throwing technique differs from the smaller shuriken and then big knives like that.
Yeah, so the Shuriken is always, a lot of it has to do with the throw is brushing, and then there's a pushing at the palm.
Okay.
So, and then you release it up high, and in some schools they brush like in this system, they do the finger
Okay.
with, there's so many different ways of throwing these big guys, but the method I learned is the finger on top.
Okay.
And so that this finger is, can you see? Has that energy, and you push this way.
It's interesting. It actually has
So,
a.
and you bring it from back here, and you pull. So you actually pull like you're pulling. So there's, and then there's the Russians. The Russians have like a really cool way of throwing these things. They go, there's they'll stand sideways like this, and they'll throw it, and they just, the elbow is down, and they go just like that, and they can throw really far.
Okay.
And then you don't have to be strong. One of the headmaster's is his daughter, and she goes like that. There's no energy. She's like whoop, and it's like from here to, 10 meters. It's like easy. So they throw, it's relaxed. There's a relax. There's so many different methods. There's, this way when on the flat side, and depending on how close you are, your finger is in a different place.
That's interesting because it tends to.
I'm sorry, the thumb. I got mixed up, So that kind of stuff.
In a way,
many methods in throwing knives. This is my new love. I mean, I love the Shiriken because but I connect this the throwing knives more to the original throwing the sword.
Right. So Shuriken is really sort of the smaller versions of sword in a concept. But it's interesting that it kind of resonates that, what Yahagi Sensei, our Soke talks about the tenouchi, the palms and the index finger extension. So there are a lot of the commonalities.
Oh yeah, it was like when Sensei talks about this stuff, and I go, "Oh, where do I know that from?" Like, oh, yeah, because it's amazing. All these arts are so related,
Yeah, and I think we have comment from Victor.
And what happens is a lot of the teachers kind of go around the same path, even though one guy is in China and one guy is in Japan and one guy is in India and one guy is in Russia. They throw all over the world now, especially like knives. The Shuriken is most people is usually is mostly the ninja people are famous for that, and there's a few some Ryuha sword school. I think there's one, I can't remember the name of it, but they're here in the U.S. somewhere. I saw an old embu that they did, and it was really cool. He's throwing the Shuriken, he comes out, then he does a kata with the sword and stuff like that.
Yeah, and another thing's also interesting. It kind of relates to Adam's second question about sort of, how we throw like a sword or a wakizashi, which is large and heavy. But in Ryushin, we have a lot of the one-hand technique, right? So if you kind of combine the same concepts of how we use the body and momentum as we do in Ryushin, I can see, the one-hand technique and throwing is not that far away from each other.
Yeah, we're pretty close. And so I would say, as I understand it, the katana they use quite often. They use two hands. They'd be in a kamae and they throw it right into your chest because you generate a lot of power. Wakizashi or tanto, separately one-handed. Makes sense. I mean, I've thrown. When I was in Japan, we were different found places we could do it and stuff like that.
We have two questions. One from David: have you thrown a sword? Another question from Stephen: what are the throwing techniques for hira shuriken?
Hira. I'm not the hira. Those are pretty easy to anyway. So if it's a larger version, if it's a larger version, I don't know, I don't have a larger one, but the hira, right? So there, you hold it like that, and then you just kind of, all throwing arts, my experience is you have to release them a little bit higher than we think, otherwise they go down into the ground, or you put too much of a spin. With these, they're pretty fail-safe. You could pretty much throw them pretty regular and they'll stick because of the, many points. You have a number of points. But like if you have one like if they say you have one like this, takes a little bit more skill. And then again, I don't have a lot of experience with the wheel styles. Then I find them they're too small and you can hurt yourself. Like this is really sharp. I cut myself when I threw it a few times. And these were that one Tom made, and he made all of these. So
yeah, I think that's why the sticks.
Just throw them. The thing is, where you point is where it goes. So sometimes it'll come out like this, and sometimes it'll hit a point. But because there's, it's rotating, it pretty much will stick, even if it sticks this way instead of this way. You're not gonna. Again, like in the movies, they show the guy with a shuriken in his head. He's like, oh. And it'll bounce off his head, annoy the crap out of him.
Right. I think that's why
better have another tool there to finish him off.
Right, and I think that's why the stick, the bow shuriken was a mainstream rather than the wheel one. And I think you were showing earlier how you can probably use the bow shuriken as
as a self-defense weapon,
right.
So if you were in close combat, you could, you could use it as this strike, you have it like that. So you can, if you're hidden, then you just strike like that. Yeah.
I'm conscious.
Then of course, in Meifu Shingagi ryu, they have a few other weapons. They have, Fudo Kasari, which is has a ring on one end, and they use it here. And again, this is a hidden weapon. You have it in your hand like this, and then I don't want to throw this one, but I have a plastic one that I practice with. So we have, you can try, you can make one of these or buy one, and you take this, you throw it in the guy's face, and you can swing it and strike him down. Boom, but it's usually, element of surprise. Boom, you bring it up, swing it out, cut. You can cut like kesagiri, bang, So that's another art. That's part of that, and then. The Mitch asked me the last time, the kind of that funny one that you showed before has like
right,
sticking out. Those Shuriken, and those are hidden weapons. No,
that's toward the end. Sorry, let me find it. Nope. Okay. 1 second.
So those, I didn't learn any of I didn't learn the Shuriken, but it is again a hidden weapon where you can be.
This one?
No.
No.
You're getting there.
Okay, I'll find it somewhere.
It is.
Just to showing you all the different ones.
Yeah.
Nope. Nope.
It's not coming up. But anyway, Shuriken, it's a hidden weapon, and you can hide it, you're in a kimono.
Right. So these are different weapons that the ninja shinobi use other than shuriken. This one?
Yeah, there it is. That's a Shuriken. So it's kind of like a brass knuckle, with points on the end, so they protrude out of your hand. Like that, but what the beauty of it is they roll, you can roll them in and out. and you can use the backside, the bottom part too.
Yeah, what's fascinating, I think, as you said, I think there's a self-made aspect of shinobi and the weapons they use. They probably experimented a lot.
Well, this is not this is not ninja. This is samurai. This is Meifu Shingage. And Somiya Sensei was, as I understand it, had lineage of samurai family.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I'm conscious of time, Sensei.
Like I said before, Katori Shintoryu was his swordsmanship, and he held I think he had teaching license. He might even have Menkyo Kaiden. I'm not sure.
I think we might actually try that one time, at some point, sort of learning about Katori and other sort of the, old styles, the ancient styles, see what they have in their system. But I'm conscious of time, Phil Sensei. Let's see if there are other questions. We'll take that. But before we break, I wanted to ask this question, and that is, last time when we talked about the Yabusame, you talked about how, sort of communicating with horse, which is a sort of, the unknown element that you can't always control. You actually have to communicate and work with it. That was the sort of the element of the Yabusame. If you pick one thing that really attracts you, or that really sort of you find it very peculiar or unique about Shuriken or Shurikendo, what would you say, like one important element, takeaway?
Oh, it's a good training. You have to put your mind where you want the Shuriken to find the target. So very much like Kyudo, you don't look for, you don't look to always strike, but if you polish your heart and your mind so that you can find a target. So how do you say that? So that's what I take away from it. I don't know, it may sound too obscure to people, but it has to do with that, and you can think of more easy to understand. It's like making that connection to the target, to where you're going to strike,
Right.
Becoming one with the target.
Because target is moving, right?
Right? But, it's true. That's what I take away from it. Like if I can see the target and I can connect with the target, I can hit it. I can strike it.
That's very interesting. Right. So because the target is moving.
The way of polishing your focus. It's a focus, and it works in your other parts of your life.
Absolutely, it's a sen no sen, no? When we talk about like anticipating the movement of the opponent before they make the movement. So sen no sen, right? In a way, sort of having a bit of the sort of the telepathic connection.
I thought it so much in those terms. I was thinking more of the, like I said, just focusing my mind to the task at hand without it overtaking me. So I can do the task, but without being unaware of my surroundings. I have to be aware of my surroundings, but yet I'm the task at hand. My focus is very much there, but it's not completely absorbing me. That makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's what toward the end of the interview with the 24 Soke of the Koga, he was talking about this. It's sort of a similar thing, the state of being of your mind, right?
Yeah, it's a state of mind. Like I said, I never studied taijutsu or ninjutsu. But I've known a lot of ninja. If you can know a ninja, sometimes people say, "Oh, I'm a ninja," and they go, "If you're a ninja, how come you're telling us?" It's one of those funny things. But and not to take it away from anybody. Everybody's practice is what it is, you know.
But I have a, so yeah.
The people I've met, you know, they're, you know, very sincere in their practice and their beliefs and so on and so forth, you know. So I worked at Santa Cruz. There's a ninja group there, and I taught them Jodo, and I taught them some sword, you know. And you know, they work hard, you know, and they're very, very dedicated and very ambitious to learn other stuff, you know. Yeah, and, you know, and you know, the ninjutsu, people get a lot of bad rap to the ninja stuff, you know, and some, you know, they make fun of it, or it's not real, or this and that. And it's real to them, you know, it's their practice. As long as you do something wholeheartedly, you know, and they put all their effort in it, they do, you know, they do shugyo, if it has shugyo intent, you know, then why do you know, why waste your time in trying to poo-poo what they're doing, you know? My way of thinking is like everybody has some kind of valid stuff that they bring to the table. Anyway, no,
actually, yeah, no, thank you. Really, yeah, it's really, really fascinating. For me, again, the last point that you made about some sort of being at a place in your mind and mental calmness, even to be able to have a connection with your opponent, is really deep. And that for me is the biggest takeaway. But this was very, very interesting, and I'm unconscious of time. So before I break, I'm make a proposal that when we come out of the COVID lockdown, we meaning New York Budo Association, should organize a session workshop on Shuriken with a full sensei, so that we actually get to try this out and have a bit of the feel ourselves. And with that, I will, again, big thank you to Phil Sensei, and I'll give the floor back to Mitch for the last spiel.
Okay, thank you, Sumi. Thank you for asking me. I'm always happy to do this stuff because I love this. I love all the Japanese Budo and Chinese.
So thank you, Phil Sensei. Thank you, Sumi Sensei, for doing this. Really, this is such a fun program that we're doing, and we're really excited to do more and more of these. So any support you guys can give us, please do so. We do have a Patreon page. Sumi, you can share the screen and you can pull up that frame. Just, patreon.com/NYBA. You can train with us online for everybody. If you can go to the title frame as well, just let that hang up for a second. I just want to thank, if you can go back up, Sumi, to the title frames. The credits, yes. So I want to thank Phil Sensei for giving his time. We really appreciate it. Sumi, thank you so much for doing the interview. David Bernkoff for helping with the lighting and organizing everything, and Kenny Ragathun for technical support and streaming it to Twitch. We're really excited that we're on Twitch as well. I think we had one follower on Twitch, but we'll post it and hopefully people will enjoy the content. We'll also record this and put this on YouTube as well. So if you want to go to the next frame, you can follow us on all of these awesome channels. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You can look us up on Yelp. You can donate to us on Patreon. We do have a TikTok page, which is
Believe
it or not, but I'm not dancing, or nor is Phil Sensei, and we are on Twitch. So if you want to go to the next slide, you can train with us on Patreon. You can support us. Anything, any little bit helps. We have lots of tiers: $1, $2, $3, $5. And if you want to start training with us, it's $10 and up. And basically, we do online classes in Rushin Shochi Ryu, Kenjutsu. Phil Sensei is one of the main instructors, senior headmaster instructor of New York Budo Association, boom. And Sensei has been training for well over 40 years. And we really love teaching online. So we are a legitimate school. We have a lot of fun training. We enjoy teaching online. And please support us so we can do more of these things. So we're really excited just to kind of quickly announce that we are going to be we're doing one per month, and in April we're going to be doing one with Katie Roche Sensei of Greater New York Naginata Federation. So we're really excited to do the next Gateway interview on Naginata. So that's a completely different Budo practice, and we're really looking forward to doing more and more of these and expanding more and more of these. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, guys.
Phil Sensei.
Thank you, Phil Sensei.
Thank you for asking me. It was fun.
It was nice. It was great. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, sorry. Steven Seka had one more question, Sumi.
Oh.
He was asking, samurai use shuriken.
Yes. So yeah, it was part of the samurai training, and yeah, even the shoguns actually practiced shuriken as part of the samurai training. That's what the historical records mention. But we can also circulate the PowerPoint to the participants, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There are sources. We just don't Google and use Wikipedia. I actually go to the IGA and Koga and other actual sources to pull up the info. So.
It's very helpful to be able to read Japanese.
And the samurai and their sword, they had the kosuka, which was a little knife that was tucked into the scabbard between the handle, and it would fit in like this, but it was like a knife, a flat knife.
I think Robert Lewis also had mentioned that he had a shuriken or a katana that had that as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they either had a knife or they had a split like hashi, like chopsticks. You can use them all for grilling or something like that. But you can certainly throw them. And a woman's hairpin was used quite often.
Interesting.
Yeah,
and men had hairpins in their hair also, so they would use that. So yeah, samurai. Yeah, I mean, we give a lot of homage to the taijutsu people, ninja, but that it was very much a samurai art.
Yeah, so let us do the session on swords at some point as well.
Absolutely. And we just want to also thank everyone for coming tonight and tuning in. We really appreciate and you guys coming and checking it out, and we hope to do more of these. So thank you again, guys. And thank you again, Sumi and Phil Sensei.
All right.
My pleasure.
Good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumi. Good night. Sola gave you a break today. He didn't streak. He didn't streak today.
All right.